Scientists in the Environmental Protection Agency's Chemical Safety Office are accusing the agency of corrupt practices. In a new report by the Intercept, whistleblowers claim that they were forced to alter the risk assessment report for dozens of chemicals. They say this included minimizing or even removing evidence of neurological effects, birth defects, and cancer. Sharon Lerner is the author of that report and joins me now. She's an investigative reporter for The Intercept. Sharon, thanks for being here. You spoke with multiple scientists who came forward with these allegations. Can you explain the pressure that they were under to alter these reports and who is behind these demands?
Yes, well, thank you for having me. I spoke with 4 scientists who presented very detailed account of pressure that they're facing and have been facing over the past 3 years, in some cases, to alter the science. Their job is to assess new chemicals. These are chemicals that companies want to bring onto the market. And they look at the evidence and try to ensure that the chemicals don't pose a risk to humans or to the environment. And in several cases, they find risk, right? And for instance, they'll look at animal experiments in one case that I wrote about, and they saw that the chemical that was being assessed caused miscarriages and birth defects. And the scientist put that in his report after his superiors tried to convince him not to, and later realized that the information had been deleted from the report. So sometimes they're facing pressure in the form of yelling and bullying from their superiors to not put things in. So it's, that's really not a big deal. They'll minimize it. And then sometimes it's actually removed without their knowledge.
But Sharon, help our viewers understand the motivation behind the pressure to alter these reports. Why were these superiors trying to make sure, as you said in one point during your article, make the hazards go away?
Well, they're under intense pressure there to approve chemicals and to do it quickly. And so they want to move the process along, and they want it in many cases, and I shouldn't say everyone, but I think there is really a small handful of individuals in this case who are very close with industry. In many cases, people come from industry to the agency or leave from the agency. They, come and go. And also, there's a very close relationship between the companies that often put pressure on the agency. They'll call and say, how's it going? Is it moving? And then they sometimes get angry with the officials. And you could tell in one case, one of the scientists described to me this screaming argument he had with the science advisor in his office, who said, it was actually a curse, I won't say it now, but he said that the company will be extremely angry if they see a report with hazards in it, because then they'll have to alter the chemical potentially. In fact, though, I should say that almost never happens. In the thousands of chemicals that have been reviewed by this office since 2016, none of them have been not allowed to enter the market. In a few cases, they ask for more information, but it's almost always go ahead.
Yeah. So, Sharon, you also mentioned that these scientists have filed complaints with the EPA's Inspector General and the Office of Science Integrity. What are the next steps there? And has the EPA responded to these claims?
Yes, they have. And so it's important to note that Administrator Regan has been very outspoken about addressing problems of scientific integrity, and so has President Biden. And in their response to us, they said that they will investigate and that they take it seriously, and that they take not just the altering of the science seriously, but also the retaliation, which all of the scientists experienced. So I think that's a very positive thing. But yes, they all have filed these complaints months ago, and so far nothing's happened. I know that the EPA is undergoing a very intense process of trying to address scientific integrity complaints. So it's obviously a big, a big undertaking that takes some time, but I think they felt that they didn't have any more time, both because I think, their careers are at risk. It's a very unpleasant situation that they're under, but overwhelmingly what I heard from them is that they're very, very concerned about the public health, the implications that, there are going to be chemicals allowed onto the market. There have been chemicals allowed onto the market that are not safe. And they feel it's their obligation to speak up.
And just one more quick question for you. Any of those chemicals that had their data altered or are in question, is there any pause being put on them, or are they still out there and potentially hurting people?
Well, that is one of the outcomes that I think we should hope for from this report. So this is just out, and I think the next step really should be a very thorough investigation from the IG and from the EPA into what chemicals that, the dozens of chemicals that this happened with. And no, there is no hold on them yet. Unfortunately, this is really the beginning of looking at this. But I think you're very right that it will be important to identify them and to make sure that they are reassessed properly.
Sharon Lerner, thank you.
Thanks for having me.